for imported. The incentives would only be for imported vehicles, because you just said you provide incentives. Clearly, under President Kufuor, there were incentives for healthcare workers and also for teachers to bring in vehicles, and they will waive the import duty, and that basically worked but was abused. We think that with digitalization and the unique identity of people, we can better monitor the situation. But the issue is that we need to be able to see how these teachers and these nurses could also acquire with the necessary incentives from the local manufacturing companies. I mean, as you know, the numbers of teachers and nurses are very, very large relative to the production capacity of some of the firms here. But we are leaving that open to discuss with them and with the manufacturing companies here to see how we can incentivize. Our preference clearly is to buy local. And so we will work with them to see how best, if they can meet the terms in terms of production on time and all of that. I think we will try to incentivize them. But we will leave it open for discussion, and that's what we've done. The other issue was that we wanted to do these tax reforms, import duty, flat tax, tax amnesty, and so on. Why don't I do it now? And why do I want to? I must have a manifesto, otherwise if I do everything now, if I could, what would I do when I come into office? I mean, how can you do everything now? Even President Mahama, former president, who was president, I'm only vice president, but he was president. Why didn't he do everything then? Why is he coming back? He had full authority. I don't have full authority. The budget that has gone to Parliament, which has been passed, is not my budget. Is it my budget? It's not my budget. The budget goes in the name of the president. It doesn't go in the name of the vice president. But when you have to think about what new do you want to do, you come up with new ideas. And I've come up with new ideas which I want to do when we come into office. Everyone who is running for office, whether you are Kamala Harris or you are Bawumia, you will still have to think about what you have to do when you get into office. And this is why I'm presenting my new ideas as to what to do. Samson talked about the scholarship students and all of that. And I think this is a very, very important issue. There's nothing more heart-wrenching than taking a student abroad and not being able to take care of them in those circumstances. And I think that I believe, and this is what we are saying, that one needs to, first of all, harmonize these databases so that you have full visibility and transparency. And also, we have undertaken in the manifesto to publish all the beneficiaries of all of these scholarships as they come, so that everybody knows who is getting the scholarships and so on. And again, I've been made very aware of this issue. It's not new, because students have and parents have gotten in touch with me about the awards and the scholarships and so on. So we're talking with the Ministry of Finance and the Scholarship Secretariat. I think they were able to make some payments to some of the UK students and so on. But we will follow up on it because it's very urgent. Cocoa Board is on the verge of collapse. I'm not aware of that, but we'll look at that. I cannot comment on that. It's not. I don't know where the data is coming from. Then the National Cathedral. National Cathedral, again, is a very, very important issue because, I mean, taxpayers' money has gone into it, and many people would like to see it completed. And I believe that one should have an engagement with the churches and all the stakeholders for us to see how best to get the funding to complete the project. But I think that we need to sit down and talk if the design has to be looked at again to make sure it can be completed. We have to put everything on the table. But I will be minded more by the churches and the church leaders and the discussions that we should have with them on the way forward. But I think it's an important issue. Thank you. Constituency 1 ambulance, and we are making a lot of progress in that direction. So I think that, I mean, what is clear, I don't have to go through every sector. The data, for me, I speak only with data. The data is very, very clear that we have our government, we have outperformed the government of former President Mahama in the management of the economy in virtually every sector. Virtually every sector. You tell me whether it's GDP growth, whether it's per capita income, whether it is industry growth. I mean, virtually every sector we have outperformed. So he either does not read or he does not understand the data. Needs to do one of the two. Take his time to read the data and understand what it is before he comes out to speak, because he will speak out of ignorance. Because if you understand the data, and I believe that as a former president, he does understand the data. He must understand the data. And I believe that is why he doesn't want to debate me. I believe so. That is why he doesn't want to debate me. He's running away from that. So if, according to him, we have mismanaged the economy in the midst of a global crisis, if our mismanaged economy is outperforming you in virtually every sector, this economy that you are saying has been mismanaged. We are performing you in GDP growth, in per capita income, in gross international reserves, in every sector, roads, hospitals, schools, everything. Free SHS, all of that. If this is a mismanaged economy that is outperforming you in your economy that had no global crisis, no crisis at all, but you couldn't afford chalk. You couldn't afford chalk, but there was no crisis. So if our mismanaged economy is performing better than your better managed economy, then in that case, you must not have been very good. Let me put it mildly. I was going to say incompetent. Because our bad economy is much better than your good economy. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, so I think that the matter, I hope that this matter can be settled. There's no way he can say that his economy that he managed as president. By the way, I'm not yet president. In another 3 months, inshallah. mean, let us settle this matter. And you are members of the press. You read the data, you follow the data, you know the data, you know that we have done better than him. So why does he want to come back? I mean, it's like you go for an exam with someone in school. You score 70%, they score 30%. And you want to convince people that they are better than you. It doesn't make sense in that sense. So I seriously believe that statement, that we have failed. Of course, we've had challenges. Nobody can say we haven't had challenges. We have had challenges, serious challenges, challenges that have kept me up at night. In 2022, that was a horrible year for us. 2022, petrol prices went up to 23 cedis per liter. We were losing reserves so badly, and you saw food prices going up and all of that. That was a real challenge that we had to deal with. And this is how we came up with the whole gold for oil, gold purchase program. And that has really helped us. Today, Ghana today, notwithstanding all the challenges, we are the 10th lowest price in terms of petroleum in Africa, the whole of Africa. Ghana is number 10 in those of lowest prices of petroleum products. We are number 10, 10th lowest. The lowest is Libya. Then you move through Egypt and Sudan and all of those to come to number 10, which is Ghana. Ghana, we're priced around 13, 14 cedis per liter right now. Cote d'Ivoire is priced 23 cedis per liter. As Hassan was just telling me earlier on when I asked. 10th lowest. We still want to bring it lower. But in 2022, at the time I announced Gold for Oil program, and I said we had to attack this thing with gold for oil, the prices were 23 cedis per liter at that time. So we've had challenges. It's not, everything is not where we want it to be, but I believe that we can work better. But I don't think the former president can lecture us on economic management. He just cannot. His record will not allow him to lecture us on economic management. Is there anything you have disagreed with in this government? The issue fundamental to government. When we sit in cabinet, we argue on many issues, and everybody brings their mind. And sometimes your view prevails, sometimes it doesn't prevail. But once we take a decision, it is a collective decision. And so I cannot come out and say that the decision that we collectively took, I disagree with. No, I'm bound by it. That is the nature of cabinet responsibility. The question had to do with the rising cost of living, and I'm very happy you are raising these issues on the EV, electric vehicles. You're right, one of the ways that we want to reduce the cost of living is through bringing in public transportation, the electric buses. And, so that is what is going on. We're bringing in about 100 to start with to essentially do the pilot for it. And the issue that you raise is a very fundamental one, which is the charging stations for these electric buses. And I must tell you that Metromas is working very hard as we speak to put in the charging stations. So we will have the charging stations in place by the time the buses get here. So that is clearly a very important one. And the issue of green energy, whether you're going to try to bring in solar to charge these batteries, I think it is definitely going to be important. Because in general, if you read that particular chapter, I want Ghana to move towards solar power. And this is where I think we should be going. And this is why I want us to bring in 2,000 megawatts of solar power in the next 4 years to really bring down the cost of power. And we've seen some work already being done by wilI Power in terms of the solar area, but we're going to really expand it. So in terms of all these buses, all these government buildings, all the schools and so on, I want to move them all towards green energy, solar power, and I think that is where we should be going. I think that the other question was on job creation for the young people. I think that is at the heart of the manifesto, that you want to essentially move to create the environment and put in place the policies that will help business and that will help jobs. Right? So that's why we're talking about bold solutions for business and jobs. I think that is so critical. And I think that there are many areas that we are touching on for the young people to get the jobs. I think that, I mean, the two are very linked, business and jobs. If you let businesses grow, then the jobs will also be created. And so we are looking at helping businesses grow by putting together implementing our legally backed Ghana First policy, so that the procurement by the public will be focused on things that are produced in Ghana first before they look outside. So that is a very important part of the policy mix that we are coming with. That will make people hire more, and we will get more jobs in that sense. We also have a major tax program of tax reform to make the business environment very, very good and easy to comply with. So we're bringing in a flat tax system as exists in Estonia. We are also bringing in a tax amnesty for business, so that we can all start on a clean slate and move forward. We believe that, you know, training the youth will be very, very important. So the investment that we're making in TVET will continue. The focus, we're setting up an open university with a focus on ICT, TVET, and also the whole STEM area as well. So we want to do that, but we also are trying to get our youth trained in digital skills. I have a program for 1 million youth to be trained in digital skills, which is a broad area of training for the youth, because the jobs these days are increasingly more in that space. And I think that we can have a situation where a lot of our youth are here and they are working, whether in America or the US or Canada, right from Ghana here and so on. So these are some of the areas that we think we're going to get going, the infrastructure area and so on, that will expand the economy so that we can create more jobs for our people. And of course, setting up the SME bank, setting up, you know, the credit scoring system to allow people to get credit and move Ghana towards that system. We may have some time to talk more about some of these, but these are some of the areas we want to get the youth totally involved and empowered to get jobs. Thank you very much. I'll take the
But at this point,
facility, and they use that money to go and set up Capital Bank instead of rescuing the problem that they had. They took the money from the central bank and went to set up another bank, which was also collapsed. Some took money and went and invested in private property. So it was against this background when the governor came to report, and this was one of my nightmares as in the last 8 years. I couldn't sleep that night. At the banking system, most people didn't understand how close we were to a collapse of the entire banking system. But we were this close because all it would have taken was for a few depositors to go to UT Bank or UFT and they'll tell you there's no money. What would happen? There would have been a complete run on the banking system in Ghana. We would have collapsed the banking system. When the governor came to report that we were on the verge of collapse, decisions had to be taken to save the banking system and to save depositors. And this is how come we had to merge many of these banks into other banks. And we saved 4.6 million depositors. I will ask the former president, if he hasn't read, to go and read the receiver's report, or to go and read the Bank of Ghana report and acquaint himself before making any further comments on matters he clearly does not understand. He needs to get an understanding before you make comments. And you cannot hand over a bank's license to them. This is subject to legal procedure. You have to go to court. You don't have the power in our constitution to do that. And I'm surprised sometimes because he has been president before and he should know these things. He should know these things. Ladies and gentlemen, we have tripled the capitation grant per child since we came into office, from 5 cedis to 15 cedis. And what is interesting also is that we've had the lowest increase in electricity tariffs in recent history. Between his time, 2009, and 2016, when they were in office, the average annual increase in electricity tariffs was 50% a year. That's the average. Some of the years were 80%. Reserves, the level of the reserves that you have, inflation, and so on. When we came into office, during the first term before we hit COVID, between 2017 and 2019, you saw the fundamentals pretty much strengthening by all accounts. And the exchange rate depreciated in those 3 years by less than 5%. That was the lowest depreciation in the currency for 28 years. 28 years. That was the lowest depreciation of the currency. I think we went up, even after COVID, we didn't get that high a depreciation. But the biggest shock for the economy came in 2022. All hell was breaking loose in 2022. Inflation, 54% as of November 2022. Exchange rate had depreciated at 54%. And of course you could look at the fundamentals were in trouble at that time. You saw fiscal deficit going up, you saw inflation going up, growth declining. And so for me, it wasn't surprising, even though it was shocking, the extent to which the exchange rate went. So the point that we are making is that once the fundamentals weaken, you get it shown in the exchange rate. And this is why we've seen that recently, even though we're depreciating in November at 54%, this year the depreciation has been 18.6% so far, right? We're looking at about 18.6%. So you are looking at a situation this year. Why is the depreciation lower? because the fundamentals have strengthened. The fiscal deficit is under 5%. We are running a primary surplus. Growth has gone up first quarter to 4.7%, higher than projected. The reserves are increasing, and the gold for oil program is helping. So, as the fundamentals and inflation today is around 20%, so there's been a strengthening of the fundamentals, and you've also seen more relative exchange rate stability. In all of this, and I want you to take this away. When I look at what was happening in 2022, the 54% depreciation of the cedi, it was very scary. In fact, in 2022, this economy was on the verge of collapse, because you saw our reserves declining very steeply. The exchange rate was blowing up, inflation was up, and my worry at that time, frankly, was that I could see this country moving towards Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was what was clearly in my mind at that time, because you saw protests in Sri Lanka. They had no fuel. Doomsaw was there, and when you saw the way our reserves were moving in 2022, we were heading right in that direction, that we're going to get queues on the street. We couldn't buy fuel, we couldn't pay for so many things. And it was in that context that I came up with two policies. One was the gold for oil policy and the gold purchase program of the Bank of Ghana. Because when I looked at it, sometimes when they say necessity is the mother of invention, because when I looked at it, we were headed for disaster, But I made the case. I looked at numbers, and I said, well, how are we going to get foreign exchange to buy fuel in this declining reserves? And then I looked at gold. I said, let's take a look at gold. I looked at the reserves of gold that we had, and it was 8.7 tons. 8.7. That is from independence to 2022. Our gold reserves were 8.7 tons. 8.7. When you look at the US, they had 8,000 tons in gold reserves. The UK, Germany, France, all about 2,000, 3,000 tons. And Ghana, the largest gold producer in Africa, had 8.7 tons. So I said this is something that we need to change. And so Ghana needs to start, because the thing about gold for us is that we don't have to export anything to get gold. If we have cedis, we'll buy gold right here locally. So we can use our cedis to buy gold without needing to export cocoa or oil or diamonds or timber. We just buy the gold locally. That is what we have that many countries don't have. In 2016, which was the case actually, in that regard. But I think that we've moved on significantly since 2016, and we can point to a few things that we have, because at the end of the day, you reduce suffering broadly by creating jobs so that you give people something to do, or you bring in some social interventions to ameliorate the problems, the hardships that are there. So you need to look at what we have done. We've created at least 2.1 million jobs. Per capita income in cedi terms has gone up almost more threefold. In dollar terms, per capita income from 2016 has gone up from 1,978 to 2,436. So GDP has gone up, per capita income has also gone up. As I said, we've kept all public sector workers employed. We didn't lay off anyone during the COVID, and we have done that, and we've kept the lights on. We suffered so much from doomsday. Everybody was suffering from doomsday, but we have kept the lights on for 8 years. Teacher trainees were suffering. We've restored their teacher trainee allowances. Nursing trainees were suffering. We've restored their allowances. People who were using the NHIS had major issues. The people who had sickle cell were suffering because the hydroxyurea, which was really needed and wasn't covered by the NHIS. Today it is covered by the NHIS. Today kidney dialysis is covered, as well as childhood cancer was also covered. You also see that for the people, the issue of rent advance, the National Rental Assistance Scheme has come in to really help in that. During COVID, we gave free water for a year, free electricity. For people in the rural areas and remote areas, we brought in medical drones to deliver medicines, vaccines, that we've presented to be done under the Korean facility. When we say the Koreans have given us a grant and a concessional loan of $2 billion, and we've had to take a number of projects to them for funding. I think that bridge over the Fram is one of them. And then the Concourse Sports Stadium, I have to follow up with the minister on that one. I can't give you a direct answer on that. Then the question came, the first 100 days, what would you do? I'm definitely not taking a honeymoon. We are going to get straight to work to put things in place. I think that for me, the focus is on jobs. And so you have to put in the budget as quickly as possible so that you can make sure that the tax amnesty regime comes into place, the flat tax regime comes into place, so that by the time of your first budget in March, these things, the Ghana First, Buy Ghana First policy, that we put it in and pass the law so that we can get the Ghana First policy. The e-levy will go because we have to focus on digitalization of the economy, and so we need to take out the e-levy as well. So these are some of the things that I believe that we can do very, very, very quickly as we come in, within the first 100 days. But I think that we're going to be very, very hard at work to look at things that get business moving. The tariff structure for the businesses, commercial versus residential, we have to look at it. The flat rate regime has to come in immediately. Those things that will get business moving very quickly to create the jobs are the things that we are going to do immediately, so that we are serious about business and serious about job creation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency.